Oahu's construction boom is being fueled in part by a controversial source for raw materials, sand from dunes on central Maui. And after always investigating started looking into the issue, the mayor is stepping in and county officials are looking at possible permit issues. Gina Mangieri is always investigating and tells us what she's learned. Gina?
Joe, sand is a key ingredient in concrete, and a lot of it is needed for rail and all the condos going up on Oahu. We learned tons of it is being brought over from Maui amid cultural and sustainability concerns. So we connected all the dots to find out who's benefiting from the sand mining, and we got a promise of action that could bring it to a stop.
The valley on the Valley Isle is largely made of huge sand dunes, whittled down from hundreds of feet high over decades of central Maui development.
I grew up in these sand dunes in Wailuku. They sand mined down 60 feet, and they had already done 40 feet. And from my very own window, I could hear the shovels and the machinery going, and it was agonizing to hear it.
Tons of what's dug up there gets shipped over to Oahu because sand is a key ingredient in concrete for all these big city projects. Always Investigating watched massive earth-moving operations from Maui pier to barge, port to port, caravans of trucks and heavy equipment, sand and aggregate factories, all destined to become the very core of Honolulu's buildings and infrastructure.
Oahu has exceeded its inland sand reserves long ago, and that's why there's been this convenient relationship of Maui sand being, trucked and barged and shipped over here for the purpose of making cement.
I sat and watched last Saturday as the trucks went one after another. They take tons of sand at the same time, and there were just one after another going down this road to the site, to the barge, to the site, to the barge.
The county talked moratorium before when its study said only a 5-year supply of dune sand remained, and that was more than 10 years ago.
It's a tremendous amount of sand is leaving Maui.
Why are you concerned with that?
Well, in my role as Maui County Environmental Coordinator, I think it's time to really refocus our attention to what's happening before it becomes a real crisis, and it may be at that point.
Why does it become a crisis when you go past the reserves?
Well, it's just managing our resources. It's smart planning, and it's sustainability.
With building hotter than ever, talk of more regulation or even blocking the sand trade is back on the radar. Shipments of sand and aggregate from Maui are peaking again, and sand digging continues, largely at the 1,000-acre Maui Lani development. We tracked the county document trail and, using valid grading permits, mapped the sand flow. And here's what we found. Maui Lani has a permit to excavate several 100,000 cubic yards of sand at its Phase 9. They got the green light for a temporary trucking path through a nearby parcel to the stockpile site on a parcel leased from A&B by HC&D, formerly known as Ameron, where another grading permit lets HC&D take in even more volume and divvy it up from there. Some gets taken to the harbor every few weeks or so, put on a barge owned by HC&D, and shipped to their own cement plant on Oahu. From there, it's mixed in and dispersed across the island, including for projects like rail, which HC&D, paid as ownership entity Pohaku Pa'a and Ameron, made $30 million on last fiscal year alone. A Maui Lani spokesperson told me they often use the excavated sand within the project itself. Some gets taken off-site. We asked Maui Lani how they decide what stays and goes. They say that's up to the excavation contractor, which is HC&D. And they all, Maui Lani, the concrete company, the barge, the rail subcontractor, share a common owner in Bill Mills, a main partner in all of it. The Mills Group told me various home builders and private entities and other landowners are also involved within the Maui Lani development, and that they don't get involved in the daily operations of HC&D. But county officials may get very involved again as they revive talk of a moratorium or regulation. Can a government, though, tell a private property owner and a private purchaser, stop?
Sure, they'd have to pass the appropriate ordinances to do so. But it certainly could be done and has been done in other jurisdictions.
HC&D's president told me they'll be curbing the sand exports themselves, that starting next month, they will import sand from British Columbia, which he says will offset Maui shipments. The state's other major company in the same line of business, Hawaiian Cement, had voluntarily stopped exporting Maui sand during last decade's moratorium talk. And they say they don't excavate it anymore on Maui. They ship out only rock aggregate from their Maui quarry, and instead of sand, they mix in fly ash from Oahu's H-Power waste burning plant. Aside from the sustainability argument, Native Hawaiians and others are concerned about the iwi, ancestral burials frequently encountered in the dunes.
Kakanilua is a very famous battle that happened right there. Our iwi kupuna, our ancestors' bones, have been placed all over this entire island in the concrete.
Maui Lani told us they operate with state and archaeological oversight, even to redesign subdivisions and relocate infrastructure to minimize any potential impacts to cultural finds. HC&D's president told me they're very mindful of the cultural importance of ancient Hawaiian burials, and all laws governing proper care are complied with. Any discoveries of human skeletal remains get reported to the state. Maui Lani declined to disclose to us the count, and the state said it does not track a tally either, saying the 1,000-acre development is so big and goes back so many decades. The Maui Lanai Burial Council wants a running total nonetheless.
It is a cultural resource, a precious cultural resource to be preserved.
Maui Mayor Alan Arakawa told me today he's going to ask the county council to declare a moratorium. The county planning director says while the grading permits are valid, the companies may also need special use and conditional use permits and would have to halt till those are in if that's the case. HC&D told me any more restrictions on sand excavations and exports could have unintended consequences for the whole state and other businesses. We'll keep following this story and let you know what happens next. Gina Mangieri, KHON 2 News.
For additional details on the sand mining, check our website, khon2.com. We've put together all the documentation on the issue. The amounts we learned are transported, as well as an interactive map and extended responses from all parties involved. It's all available in the Always Investigating section at khon2.com.